Good evening. We have one item on tonight's agenda for our City Council conference, and it's discussion regarding the James Garner Boulevard project / Brit Aesthetics / Public Art. I will turn it over to Mr. Sturts.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be before you tonight discussing this project and some great opportunities we have to add some aesthetics to this project and maybe even some public art to make this project even more special than it already is. So we're just going to start off. Some of you weren't here for all the genesis and the background of this project, so a little bit of quick project history. I know that I've seen plans on this roadway that were from, I believe they were either 1984 or 1986. So I know it had to start before that, so we're probably talking about a project that's somewhere around 40 years in the making right now. And it's great to finally be at the end of a long process here. But the whole idea behind this extension of going from Flood Street down to Main Street basically was to create that uninterrupted avenue straight into downtown, to give more opportunity for cars and visitors and business people and now even to get students all the way to the university through this new corridor. And it was initially going to be a two-lane divided corridor, so it was going to have a nice center median, basically what you see up here at Acres and James Garner right now. And that was what the original design always was and what we initially conceptualized this as. It was going to have a new bridge over Robinson Street there at the underpass with the railroad bridge, which is a great opportunity. When we built that underpass, we actually built that abutment, the walls there, wide enough to accommodate this in the future. So it was great planning. I came on board while that was under construction, so I can take no credit for it. But it was great thinking by my predecessors to look at it that way and get that in there, and for us to be able to put this in without having to build a whole new substructure underneath that bridge. We've looked at a lot of different ways to connect back to flood, and in all the evaluations, and we brought it back, we've had discussions with council and CPT, and a multi-lane roundabout at that intersection seems to be the most effective, and it'll be truly unique. It'll be something new. I don't know, we're struggling to find if there's another one in Oklahoma already. I've been on them in Texas, and I keep telling you guys, if Texans can do it, I know we can do it too. So I'm confident it'll be a change, but I think it's going to be a great addition to this roadway. But we're also going to extend the Legacy Trail. The Legacy Trail will continue north across that bridge, so it'll be a divided walkway there, so you'll be able to get safely, and you'll be on the north side of Robinson Street. So if you're trying to utilize this to really do more of a commute or exercise or whatever you're using it for, if you want to cross, you're not going to have to cross two legs of that Flood and Robinson intersection, which is going to make it much safer. And then you'll be able to continue back to the west on the Legacy Trail. And we do have plans to continue Legacy Trail north along the west side of Flood. So a lot of opportunity to do a lot of great extensions with that. And also, we're really looking forward to this as an opportunity to help relieve a lot of that congestion that we see right now. Obviously, Flood Avenue is a highly congested corridor, and there's not a lot of ways for us to improve that. We'd be buying businesses and homes, and it's really not going to be a long-term solution. So this will help drive some of that traffic off of that corridor, and possibly even the Porter corridor to allow those to develop better. And also, you know, let's face it, we all do it. We cut through the neighborhoods to get to here or on into downtown. It'll help take some of that away too with this direct route. So we're really excited about all those opportunities. So the actual James Garner, what we're calling the current phase 2, and you'll see why here in a moment, is from Acres up to Flood, going across Robinson Street. We broke this into 2 phases, and the reason we did that is because once the library started being completed, we really got a little nervous about coming in after this beautiful library was complete and starting to work on the roads. And it's just something that really wasn't palatable, and we didn't want to do that. So we went ahead and forwarded phase 1, which was that intersection and then taking it to the north end of the library. Well, that project kind of grew because we also had to accommodate some other items. We had to accommodate the railroad quiet zone and making sure that we had built it to accommodate that so we didn't lose that status at that intersection. And then we also wound up extending it all the way to the west side of the library so that we weren't working on a roadway in front of the library. And we went all the way to the intersection at Jones because it needed improvements too. And then we went to the north side of the library property and then a little south where we could tie it all in. And all this money for both these, and then of course phase 2 will be continuing from that point going north as we've been discussing. And all the funding for this was put aside in Norman Forward. And in Norman Forward, there was $6 million for this total project, and that was the original project budget. And that came from the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, and that was the budgeted number that we had in there. And so that was kind of the beginning of where we really started getting legs to this project and really getting moving forward again. For phase one, we were able to complete it. As you see, it's there today. I love the look of it. We've been a little innovative. We actually took that and we have the stormwater draining to the middle and going down the grass instead of going to the outside and trying to incorporate some LID. It's the first project in Norman. We've really been able to do that on a public project, and we want to keep doing things like that with our roadways. But we were also able to find some other funding to help us out with that. We used some railroad quiet zone money that was set aside for this intersection. And then also, because there was some utility work that was done, the NUA contributed some to that funding also. So phase two will be completing that, taking that north, going across Robinson all the way back to Flood. The number that astounds a lot of people is that the average daily traffic count on that stretch of roadway was looked at by the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, and they have estimated it could be up to 17,000 vehicles per day. That's a high number. I think if I'm putting the numbers together right, that's about the east-west flow through Berry and Lindsay. So that kind of gives you an idea of the type of flow that you would see going potentially through this roadway. And we have been successful in getting ACOG grant funds for this year. We'll talk about that in a moment, and using the Norman Forward funds so that we can complete this project. So we're talking about phase two tonight. And phase two, as I said, we actually have those federal funds for this federal fiscal year, which means we need to have those obligated before October. So that's why we kind of got a little bit of an urgency, but we got time frames before that we have to meet. So we can't wait until the last minute to start adding things or changing things. We're at 95% complete with our design plans. So we're well along. We know what we're doing. We've got it. We're ready to roll. We have one item left to complete on our right-of-way, and that's the land swap with OU for that triangle of land up there by the water tower. Once we have that, we're good to go. Utility relocations are underway. Our NUA is up there moving water lines now. We're working with our private franchise utilities to complete their moves. Our National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA Environmental, we have one little section left, and then that will be done, and we can have our public meeting and have that box checked. And with all these things we're looking at, we should be able to get a projected bid opening in late spring. So we're looking pretty tight windows. Just so you know, to do that, we basically have to turn in all of our plans and all of our estimates and all those items 90 days before the date that we go out to bid. So if we go out in late spring, we're looking at construction in the summer of '22. And so today what we want to do is talk to you about incorporating some aesthetics into this project, which we think is a great opportunity. We presented this to the CPTC on January 27th. It was really well received, and we thank all you members that were there and gave your input. And some of the input that they gave helped us refine the design, and what we're bringing back to you tonight is what we came away with out of that discussion, and we think we've got a great package, and we're anxious to show that to you here in just a few moments. It's an engineering project. You know, we got to talk budget. That's what we do on every project, right? So on this one, our current project budget, the City of Norman funding, and that's including that railroad quiet zone money and NUA money, or about $6.5 million. We have secured about $4.8 million in federal funds to help complete the project. So our total funding currently is about $11.4 million. But then we go look at the project costs. Phase one was completed about $1.9 million. Phase two, our current projected costs are about $1.6 million. So our total is about $8.5. So when you look at the difference there between our funding and our estimates, we're going to have a project surplus of about $2.85 million. So this project is doing really well. There will be funds left over to be able to go towards other Norman Forward projects, which is an important item that we've been stressing throughout the work on this project. So just a quick walk through what the project is. Starting there on your left, you can see you're coming down Flood, and then you hit that multi-lane roundabout, and you'll be able to go off to the east, and you'll cross that railroad bridge, which is pointed out there. You can see that Legacy Trail leg coming back over towards Robinson Street, and you'll continue from there all the way down to the library, which you can see there on your right. A couple of small items I'd like to point out on this, some questions that we frequently get is, what about those streets? When you're looking at Hayes, Mosier, Himes, and Johnson, we have found a way to be able to tie those back together. Initially, we thought it may have to be a one-way kind of alley feel. We've actually got enough land there, the way that we had this designed, where we can do that as a two-way street, and they'll just be looped back together, so those residents will be served properly. They'll be able to get to their homes safely, trash pickup, emergency services, all the things that are important to our community. But also on this, we want to point out that we think that there's three major locations and opportunities for us to do aesthetics or public art. And we'll start there on the left. Roundabout's a great place for public art. You can do something really iconic, you can do something with some scale, and do something that really sets it aside. And we have that opportunity here. And while we're not proposing to do it as a part of this project right now, the project is going to be putting in irrigation lines to it and electric so that it's an easy addition at a later date. And we're also proposing to work with the Norman Arts Council and go through the standard process of selecting an artist and going and doing all the public art things the right way, so we really could get something there that would be iconic and scaled correctly and done right. Because as an engineer, I'm going to tell you, you don't want me picking your art pieces. And then the second option would be on the bridge. We have those walls on the bridge that you see today. The brick walls will be remaining as they are, but we'll also have that new structure that they're going across and a new center column. And we're going to show you a design here in a few minutes of what we think could be added there to really make that something really neat and interesting and something that people would be interested in seeing. And then we also think there's a future opportunity that we can add at any time to do things along Legacy Trail and really be able to make that a nice walking trail. We've already got that on the southern section. And to extend that to the north, we think is a great idea, but we think that that could be added at a later date. So again, we think we could create an iconic gateway there at the roundabout. We can use future landscaping and streetscape features along the Legacy Trail to really build that up and make that look something nice. And we think with this bridge, we have an opportunity to really pay homage to James Garner and really get that to be something neat and really for his name's sake there at the Underpass Bridge. And just to make sure that we're all kind of seeing what we're thinking with some of it, for the roundabout, this is the Main Street roundabout, which I think was the first public art piece in Norman. I think it's great. I think it looks great. I think that people really receive it well. So this was just an example of something that we've already done in Norman that we could continue in the future to do if council chooses to keep moving in that direction. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Cavanis with our consultant, Garver, and he will talk through some of the bridge aesthetics and some of the design opportunities that we have here.
Thank you, Scott. Mayor, council, I hope you all don't get me confused with Scott because we both have blue shirts, blue jackets. We're not twins, okay?
Thank you.
Just wanted to clear that up real quick. This is actually a really unique project for myself personally. I think I want to back up to one bullet point that Scott made, and that's paying homage to James Garner. If anybody notices the spelling of my name, Brett, it is B-R-E-T. That is actually the name of James Garner's character, Brett Maverick, and that's who I'm actually named after.
Okay.
So there is a small connection here. It's fate that we get the opportunity to work on this project. So with that said, some of the aesthetics that we've talked about really are kind of dear to my heart. And the first and most easiest things for us on aesthetics is obviously landscaping. And we have opportunities to landscape a couple of areas and use low impact design means and methods because we want this also to be a showcase for the corridor to show the city of Norman is serious about implementing these design practices and standards. So the medians, the areas around the roundabout adjacent to the Legacy Trail as well are areas where we've already got landscaping included in the scope of work for the 95% project plans right now. So a little bit about the bridge concepts. When we came to the CPT, we had three basic concepts. We had a very basic, an enhanced, and then an ultimate design that we presented. The good thing about those is they all had components that could be mixed and matched with each one of them to basically fit to the budget that you all would allow us to have. So with the feedback that we had from the CPT, these are the kind of outstanding things that we wanted to bring forth to you. A very simplistic design, but very elegant and nice when you see this. We want it to be iconic, and this is one of the unique opportunities we can to make something iconic with a bridge. So the first thing is we wanted to look at fencing along the top of the bridge to make it very simplistic look through that. We wanted to add names to the bridge beams so people would understand what they're going under, that is James Garner Avenue and also Legacy Trail. We want a quick reminder of folks to utilize those corridors and those facilities when they can. A little bit of homage to James Garner and one of his characters with the Rockford Files was a symbolic Firebird emblem used for his car that he drove. I mean, this is how far back we've gone and looked at his career. And then we wanted to backlight those elements with names, his signatures, to make them pop out a little bit more in the nighttime. So you don't see just the aesthetics during the day, you get to see the opportunity to see them at night. So quickly, here is
I have a quick question on that.
Yes.
I see there's obvious James Garner references. I love it. Does he still have like an estate that we may have reached out to see if they have any suggestions or anything?
We did not reach out to them yet. However, one of the questions that we'll have in the discussions when we get a little bit farther down the line is with the city attorney to make sure that his signature is something that they would let us use. If not, then we can always come back and have a different plan. But that is one of the other things. And one of the concepts that we put together that is not brought forward, but we do have this still, was a metal film strip that basically went from the east abutments underneath the bridge all the way, or excuse me, the west abutments all the way underneath the bridge to the east abutments on both sides, that had all of his 70-plus films and TV series that would be iconically put in there so people would understand all the legacy films that he was in. We went back and also checked with our legal department to make sure that we weren't going to have any copyright infringements upon that. Our legal team is 99.9% sure. We want to make sure that we talked with city staff before we do anything like that.
Appreciate that.
Yes. So here is the daytime view of the concept that we want to bring forward to you all tonight. Again, the lettering is a little symbolic of the old Hollywood lettering styles from the previous eras. It shows James Garner Avenue on the eastbound traffic. Westbound traffic side would see the Legacy Trail. And then iconic in Norman and the emblem for the Firebird emblem there on top. The James Garner is the signature that you see on the south abutment wall through there. And just kind of as a signal, and again, nod to James for his contribution to the film industry and also being from a Normanite. We also have planted terraces that we're going to improve those landscaping adjacent to the existing retaining walls through there, as well as new landscaping in the medians. So the daytime, it looks really, really nice, but I think what really sets this different and iconic is when we look at nighttime. This image is a little bit dark, but at least you get the concept of what we want to do. We want to be able to backlight these letterings and along with the top of the abutments underneath the bridge with LED lighting. You see here is simple white. There could be opportunities during holidays, festivals, OU home games, when Norman North loses to Norman High in soccer. That's personal. We might make those orange instead of green. We do have that ability to change that concept, that LED lighting through here to match any kind of ambiance that you want to present. And it's fairly easy and inexpensive to have those kind of controllers. But I think this is what makes it unique, is we have the opportunity to do something that doesn't look just like a bridge during the day, but also something unique and iconic at nighttime as well.
I'm going to jump in again on that one. My concern would be with all of the visitors that we have that will come in off of Flood, they're going to think that they're on James Garner, not going underneath James Garner, especially
Yes.
at night.
Oops, sorry, went the wrong direction. The James Garner Avenue lettering right there is what you see. Those are typical standards that we've starting to see in the Federal Highway Administration on interstate overpasses.
Can we have like an arrow pointing up, like, this is James, I'm kidding. But you see that? I'm just wanting people to get
We can do all
confused.
sorts of neat stuff like that. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love a pretty
Yes.
bridge. I just don't want to confuse people.
Yes, we certainly understand that. Again, we've got the ability to mix and match. If council does not want to see names up there and they want to see them on the abutment walls, we can certainly do that. There are a lot of different options to mix and match these kind of things as well.
Okay.
Okay? Let's see if any other questions? So the opinion of cost, quickly, we've come up with a budget of about $215,000 for the aesthetics and the LED lighting that you show. Scott has provided us a plug-in number for the roundabout public art piece of $200,000, so the opinion of cost somewhere north of $415,000. Scott, do you want to take the next slide?
So tonight, we're just looking to you, council, to give us direction, whether to proceed here or whether to move in a different direction. And so I guess that's our first question is, do you support us adding these aesthetics and the public art piece on this project?
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you for the presentation tonight. I was at the CPTC meeting, so I also wanted to thank you for taking our feedback as it was intended, and really appreciate the design that you're bringing forward tonight, because I think you really balanced what you heard from the members of the committee and tried to, come forward with something that met most of those boxes. So I really appreciate that. So for me personally, I am in favor of moving forward as proposed. Definitely in support of the budget for the public art piece on the roundabout that will be administered by the Norman Arts Council and their competitive process. And just appreciate some of the simplicity that I see here now. And I do love the lighting piece to be added at night. And I'm just appreciative of all the work that you put into it and listening to our feedback. So fully in support of moving forward.
Thank you.
The button's not working? Okay, I thought you looked like you were moving. Okay, Councilmember Peacock?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. The lighting that's shown on this the central pier cap right there, is that just in the center, or is that actually going to span from side to side?
For now, it's just on top of the abutment.
Okay. Do we think?
Now, could more lighting be added? That certainly could be done.
Okay. I didn't know if that was reflected in these budget numbers or not.
Yeah. Go ahead, I'll let Brett.
Thank you.
If I can back up to that photo real quick. So you see the pier cap lit in the center median. Right now, there's existing pedestrian lights on the retaining walls underneath, on the outsides. We had one concept where we took a thin line LED lighting all the way around the top of the retaining walls, but in this concept, we're not. We're just lighting up the median right now.
Okay. I mean, I personally, I think even just from looking at this image, you made the comment that it was dark. I know that's just the image quality, but I think in real life, that same thing might actually occur. So if there's a way to fully light underneath both sides, I think that would improve the project. The only other question I had is, do we risk any kind of copyright infringement from using this Thunderbird logo or anything?
Again, those are things that we're following up on. Okay. And, that Thunderbird logo is pretty, you could make a very minor change. It would be the same thing, but
Sure.
not the same.
Sure.
So But that is something that we are following up on, that and also his signature to make sure that those would be allowable without there being any problems.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that that was on the record there. And yeah, so I'm a proponent of moving forward, definitely on the roundabout art piece. I mean, that's going to be a big win, and I'd really like to see what we can do about the lighting underneath there going forward. So appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman?
Thank you. I do think the railroad underpass has lights underneath currently that are on. I think they're yellow or something, but maybe if they're working right now, I'm not sure. But yeah, I agree that maybe it's not showing the existing street lights that are along there, but that would help at nighttime. But I appreciate you presenting this to the CPTC committee, and we had a pretty good discussion and gave some feedback. I do just reiterate my comments from the committee is I do support this specifically because the funding for it is coming out of the savings from this project. So a couple $1 million in savings and a couple $100,000 to enhance this new bridge. And last time I checked, Robinson was the busiest street in Norman, traffic cars per day. So a lot of people drive through this underpass. A lot of people see this. A lot of visitors to Norman will see it. And then the roundabout, of course, will be a main point of a lot of traffic. So because I do like the design a lot. I like the homage to James Garner and all of that and the lighting. But I support the enhanced landscaping and enhancements overall because I like them and because of the significant savings that we're seeing on this project. It only makes sense to me to reinvest some of that back into making the project nicer, and then would encourage us to think about the other Norman Forward projects we want to spend the rest of it on. So I am in support of going forward with this. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And Brett, thank you too.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. If you want to go back to your questions, I think we are in support of it. As Councilmember Holman just touched on, there's room for it, and it would be, I think, a complete waste if we didn't make the most of it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who enjoys a good, aesthetically pleasing bridge. So I'm excited for that, excited to see a new gateway into the university area, and love that we're highlighting one of Norman's own sons, as long as it's all legal and all that fun stuff. So just making sure. All right. Do you need anything else from us?
No, thank you, and we'll proceed. We'll incorporate this into the bridge, into the plans, and we'll begin working with Norman Arts Council.
And we'll get to approve all the final stuff,
we can
making
certainly
sure.
do that. Yes.
Okay, I'd love to see it one more time.
We will put that to make sure that we bring back final package for approval by council at a future council conference. We'd love to do that.
All right, thanks, Mr. Sturts.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this conference is adjourned. I will see you back in 30 minutes for our regular council meeting. Good evening, and welcome to the City Council, Norman Utilities Authority, Norman Municipal Authority, and Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority meeting of February 8th, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Studley?
Here.
Councilmember Schuler?
Here.
Councilmember Hall?
Here.
Whoops, I skipped somebody there. Councilmember Lynn?
I'm here.
Councilmember Tortorella? Here. Councilmember Foreman?
Here.
Councilmember Holman?
Here.
Councilmember Peacock?
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. Item 1 is consideration of approval, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of the minutes as follows. City Council minutes of January 18th, 2022. Norman Utilities Authority minutes of January 18th, 2022. Norman Municipal Authority minutes of January 18th, 2022. Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority minutes of January 18th, 2022. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you. The motion on the floor is to approve the minutes. Council members, you may cast your votes.
The minutes were approved unanimously. Didn't have it on.
They were approved unanimously.
There you go.
There you go, Ellen. All right. Item 2, Proclamation 2122-20, a proclamation of the mayor of the city of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of February 2022 as Black History Month in the city of Norman. I need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Thank you. The motion on the floor is to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Proclamation was approved unanimously.
Thank you. A proclamation of the mayor of the city of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of February 2022 as Black History Month in the city of Norman. Whereas, since its origin in 1926 by the father of Black history, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, in his pursuit to raise awareness of Americans' contributions to civilization, Black History Week began and evolved into Black History Month. And whereas 2022's national theme, Black Health and Wellness, recognizes the reality and problem of health and wellness for African American traces back centuries, where medical facilities were non-existent or understaffed, homemade remedies passed through ancestors played a key role in healing and still do today. And whereas we acknowledge the legacy of Black scholars, medical practitioners, leaders, and allies whose self-determination to desegregate hospitals were realized through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And whereas today the Black community is still most vulnerable. However, initiatives to build hospitals and community clinics, have more diverse health practitioners, and serve the Black community are growing. And whereas in Norman, we are grateful to have various community clinics and a hospital system which embraces diversity through direct policies, resources, and action, including the Inclusion and Diversity Council, which was established in 2020 and is active within the hospital system and the Norman community. And whereas the Alliance of Black Employees, a City of Norman employee resource group established in 2021, also provides support and representation to the Black community in Norman, while providing non-Black communities an opportunity to learn the Black experience to better understand diverse perspectives. And whereas the Norman Human Rights Commission continues to work to dispel prejudice and discrimination and to advance fairness, mutual understanding, and appreciation for the worth of all people. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2022 as Black History Month in the City of Norman and invite all citizens to join me in celebrating the diversity and character of our community. I'd now like to recognize Mr. Adrian Francisco, Norman resident and Norman Regional Health System Clinic Manager, to accept the proclamation.
The council, on behalf of the Inclusion and Diversity team, the executive team, our Hospital Authority Board, which there are two other members with me tonight, Mr. James Chappell and Ms. Mary Womack, and all healers of Norman Regional Health System. Just wanted to extend our sincerest gratitude for this honor of accepting this proclamation. This year's Black History Month theme of health and wellness is just a testament to the importance of community partnerships in providing outstanding access to quality health care. Just as we collaborated with you and other community partners to provide to the Norman community, especially our efforts to reach communities of color, which in these efforts I want to give a special thanks to Lieutenant Carrie Bryant with the Norman Police Department, who helped us identify areas of greatest need in these efforts. The mission and vision of Norman Regional intentionally revolves around proactive management of the health and wellness needs of our community. Active participation by the healers of our health system last year alone welcomed 2,538 babies into our community, provided more than 75,000 COVID-19 tests, and over 700 outpatient infusion treatments of the monoclonal antibody infusion. The health system also provides more than $2 million annually in community contributions for services such as school nurses in every Norman public school and making available virtual visits with a board-certified pediatrician. We provided 75,000 meals through Meals on Wheels and supported numerous United Way social service agencies. This council knows well the health system's transformational plan of Inspire Health, where we are creating greater access to the healthcare needs for all Norman residents, including our expansion to the Cleveland County Well and the future placement of the city's Senior Wellness Center on the Porter Health Village campus. So working together with our community, our diverse and highly trained team of 3,500 healers is committed to improving the well-being of our regional communities. We're grateful for our strong and sustainable community partners who help create a healthier environment where all individuals can reach their highest potential for health. So thank you all again for this proclamation.
Item 3, Proclamation 2122-21, a proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming February 1st through February 15th, 2022, as Lunar New Year in the City of Norman. I need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Thank you. The motion on the floor is to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
The proclamation was approved unanimously.
Thank you. A proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming February 1st through February 15th, 2022, as Lunar New Year in the City of Norman. Whereas Lunar New Year, also known as Chinese New Year, Tet, or Spring Festival, is a festival which celebrates the beginning of a new year on the traditional lunar solar calendar. And whereas 2022 is the year of the tiger. And whereas this celebration is more inclusively recognized as Lunar New Year because it transcends the Chinese culture and is celebrated in much of Asia, including Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, and the global Asian diaspora. And whereas is one of the most important holidays being celebrated by over 1 billion people around the world. And whereas in Norman, 5% of the population is of Asian alone descent compared to 2.4% across Oklahoma. And whereas community representation in Norman and the surrounding areas continues to grow with involvement of organizations such as the Asian American Student Association and Asian Pacific American Law Student Association at the University of Oklahoma, Asian Club at Norman High School, Oklahoma Chinese Association, Share to Grow, and many other organizations. And whereas maintaining cultural traditions create richer heritage and opportunities for all communities to learn of a global society. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim February 1st through 15th, 2022, as Lunar New Year in the City of Norman, and invite all Norman residents to learn about this global holiday and the value of the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities we have in Norman. I'd now like to recognize Ms. Binro Lee, Norman resident for 30-plus years and president of the Oklahoma Chinese Association, to accept the proclamation.
新年快乐，万事如意，虎年吉祥。Happy New Year! May the year of Tiger bring everyone strength, courage, health, wealth, and happiness. I'm Binro Lee, president of Oklahoma Chinese Association. I'm excited and honored to represent our association and the Asian community to receive this proclamation to celebrate Lunar Year from February 1st to February 15th in Norman. I have been a Norman resident for 30-plus years, and my two boys have attended the Cleveland School, Longfellow, West Mid High, and Norman High School. And of course, later on, they did go on to get to very prestigious colleges. And I'm not here to brag about my kids, actually. I'm trying to compliment the Norman school system because I learned with my kids about American culture and through the school activities. And I learned about the holidays of Halloween's and Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's and Black History Month, etc. I think it's time for me to return the favor. I'm so glad and appreciative that Mayor and Norman council members to make this effort to recognize Lunar New Year. Of course, it opens the door for me and the 5% of the Asian population in Norman to share their culture with 95% of Norman residents. I firmly believe the inclusion of diverse culture will make Norman the most desirable city in Oklahoma. And thank you again, Mayor and the council members, to make this recognition of Lunar New Year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 4, Proclamation 2122-22, a proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming Thursday, February 17th, 2022 as Random Acts of Kindness Day in the City of Norman. I need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Thank you. The motion on the floor is to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Proclamation was approved unanimously.
Thank you. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, declaring Thursday, February 17th, 2022 as Random Acts of Kindness Day in the City of Norman. Whereas Random Acts of Kindness Day is recognized on February 17th as an annual tradition of performing acts of kindness. And whereas millions of Americans focus together to change the world, one random act of kindness at a time. And whereas people of any age can participate in random acts of kindness anytime, any place, and for the unselfish purpose of spreading goodwill. And whereas the City of Norman recognizes the value of simple acts of kindness performed without prompting or reason, and how these acts can positively impact the performer, the recipient, and the onlooker of the good deed. And whereas by providing random acts of kindness and reaching out to one another, regardless of social or economic status, education, gender, origin, religious belief, age, lifestyle, or abilities, we extend an opportunity for grace, dignity, and acceptance that might not otherwise be offered. And now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim Thursday, January 17th, 2022, as Random Acts of Kindness Day in the City of Norman, and encourage the residents of our community to join me to recognize and perform random acts of kindness. I'd now like to recognize Ms. Marianne Lawson, Vice President and Spend Life Wisely Ambassador at First United Bank, to accept the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor Clark and Council, for your support of this day. I am a Norman native, actually 5th generation, and have grown up in what I have always felt was a very kind environment, fostering love and inclusiveness. And after the last 2 years of what we've all been through, I think our world could just use a little more of that than ever. We started to promote Random Acts of Kindness Day last year and have developed it into something where we are actually inviting businesses, individuals, and families across the community to join us that day in doing something kind for someone. Kindness can be writing a note to someone, opening a door for someone, smiling at someone you wouldn't otherwise smile at, letting someone in traffic. That might be a challenge for a lot of us. Or it can be something that actually might be financially supported with paying it forward and buying someone a cup of coffee, or doing something for someone unexpectedly that is a financial benefit to them. So really, kindness can be anything that we can envision. And if you can really just envision on February 17th that we all stopped and we all just did something kind for the person next to us, what kind of community we could have. So we're asking everyone to join us on that day. We're honored to promote this. We're honored that you're supporting it with us. And we have created, for anyone who would like resources, to join us on that day, to visit randomactsofkindness.org. There are resources there. And then also unitedactsofkindness.org if you would like to have something that helps you promote kindness in your business. It is an annual day each year. Last year was our first year to do it. We set a goal of 10,000 acts, and we surpassed 50,000. This year we decided why not 100,000, and we've surpassed 200,000 at this point. At unitedactsofkindness.org, you can pledge your acts so they can be counted, and we can really see the impact and volume that it will make on all of us, really. So thank you so very much.
I love that. Thank you so much, Ms. Lawson. And I wear a cuff, and I don't know if you've noticed it before, but it actually reads, "Change the world one act of kindness at a time."
Exactly
So
right.
very excited to see all of our community getting on board, and thank you for coordinating the effort. Now on to council announcements, and please remember to limit your comments to announcements only. Ward 1. Sorry, I'm just like, Councilmember Studley.
So I want to say I've received some emails regarding some issues going on with the dam at Summit Lakes in my ward, and I have heard you, I'm listening. I'm just as frustrated as you are because I thought it was resolved and we're still talking about it. We all know that construction costs have gone up considerably, and so the cost of repairing that dam has now gone up by $400,000. So I am in talks with our city attorney as well as Sean O'Leary, and we are looking at ways that we can resolve this. So be patient. I know I'm saying be patient. This has been going on since 2011, but be patient. This is my first year on council. I'll help you. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm a little bit disappointed in our sheriff's department for Cleveland County. I know that they came up with the CRU, or the crew department, to assist NPD with homelessness, and they did make some progress, some good progress with some of our homeless community. However, today, that was all thrown away to the side since they are now currently down at the river with a drone taking pictures inside encampments. And I know it's a public space, and just because it's legal and you can do it doesn't mean that it's right and moral and you should do it. So just be mindful that all the progress that you make trying to do good things goes a step back when you do things like this. The other thing that I want to announce is we on council and the mayor, well, some of us received a email that's quite concerning, and I just would like to read this into public record. Dear Mayor Clark and City Council members, I feel that you should be made aware of an incident that occurred with Ward 3 City Council member Kelly Lynn on Sunday evening, January 23rd at approximately 8:30 p.m. I was approached by Mr. Lynn in a local restaurant where he asked for a cigarette. Senseless banter occurred where he stated he was a effing City Council member and walked away. He returned and sat at the table next to us. At this point, he asked who I was voting for in the mayoral election, and I replied, Bria Clark, and he promptly told me to shut up. A minute or two later, he asked me why I would vote for that effing bee who defunded the police. And I replied that I felt she had handled all of the crap thrown at her with grace and dignity. He continued with the same line. She defunded the police. I finally asked him if he knew the definition of the word defunded. I was then called names by Mr. Lynn that I have never been called in my life. His favorite was ignorant effing psycho B, which he used many times along with mother effer. There were several people in the room who heard this. My friend and I decided it was time to leave to get away from him. I reached out my hand to shake his with the intention of asking if we could agree to disagree, at which point he moved quickly toward me with his arm raised. Out of fear, I reached for the closest thing to me, which was an empty glass. I slung the lime in the bottom of the glass toward him, and it landed on his vest. As I grabbed my purse to get away, I was all of a sudden grabbed by my shoulder, hair, and clothing, yanked backwards, and dragged and shoved towards the door as he yelled, "Get the F out." I screamed for help, and people came to get him away from me. The manager escorted him out of the restaurant and told me that he was walking home due to being so drunk, and that he, even before his arrival to the restaurant, that he was unable to drive. Said manager would not let us leave until the parking lot was safe, at which time we were escorted to our cars. A police report was filed immediately. The DA decided not to pursue the charges. I required medical attention for pulled muscles in my ribs from being yanked, shoved, and dragged. I am a 66-year-old, 5'2", 107-pound retired educator, daughter, wife, mother, grandmother, and veterans advocate. I do not deserve what this man has done to me. I do not feel safe in my own town. I am fearful of the police now. I am fearful of any car behind me thinking it could be him following me in retaliation. He has taken away my security. Due to the fact that the DA is not taking this case on, I feel that this will happen again. Mr. Lynn received no punishment and is able to continue behaving in this manner while representing the city of Norman as an elected official. Please be careful if you disagree with his opinion and know with whom you are working and associating. Very distressed and concerned citizen, Sally Little. Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Ward 2, Councilmember Schuler.
So I just have one item to discuss. I know that I've been hearing multiple things from residents concerning Dutch Brothers that has just recently opened on Main Street, and concerns about traffic coming down on Gatewood, turning around on Ann Arbor. The city is aware of these issues. There is some, there are some plans to put up some signage on Gatewood to address some of the blocking of driveways and things like that for the residents. But also, we're trying to figure out a path forward to address this after this kind of grand opening period. So we're trying to look at kind of a 30-day period after the business is opened and see if the traffic concerns still persist. But in the meantime, and I know that that doesn't feel satisfactory, especially to our members of the community that live there and are dealing with kind of this influx of traffic and business in that area. But I would encourage you to continue to reach out to me at my email and at my phone number. Residents have been sending me images and accounts of what's going on, and that will be really helpful for us to kind of address potential solutions to that issue. I think we're all excited that the business is doing really well and people are excited to go there, but we also need them to operate in kind of good faith with the neighbors in that area. So please reach out to me at ward2@normanok.gov. You can send pictures and your accounts there, or you can also text me at 405-876-9196. And then I would also say we've got 6 minutes until the polls close tonight. It's election day, so if you haven't gotten out, go ahead and rush to your polling location. And thank you all for voting today.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynn, Ward 3.
Well, I figure I have to say something now. First of all, I appreciate all the candidates, the ones up here, the ones out there that have been doing so much for this election, trying to get elected. I respect anybody that is willing to put their neck out and do some community service. Politics is a filthy business. Sometimes you're on the brunt end of it, even when you're not on the ballot. So You've all heard that letter that was read by the council member. I can tell you, if you believe any of that nonsense, I don't know what to tell you. I appreciate the Norman Police Department and the DA for fully investigating this and dispelling what happened here. And Miss Little, if you're out there, if you listen, I have found it in my heart to forgive you for this. And even you get it from some of these people up here, and I can forgive them too for their actions. So that being said, I hope that everybody can go out in public if they are an elected official and not fear what happened to me happening to them. Because it's a little bit ridiculous when you get that amped up on politics and you're just out in public and people act the way that they did. Other than that, good luck to everybody. Well, I guess we'll know here in a little bit. There might be some faces changing up here, there might not. That's up to you guys and how you voted today. That's it.
Thank you. Ward 4, Councilmember Hall.
So I just have a few announcements for upcoming meetings this week. On Thursday, February 10th at 11:30 is the second meeting of the Center City Administrative Delay Committee, and looking forward to that and continuing our work. That same day, February 10th at 4 p.m. is the Oversight Committee meeting. On Friday, February 11th at 3, we are all looking forward to cutting the ribbon for the Transit, Public Safety, and Park Maintenance Facility. It's been a long time in coming and a long time in planning, so we're looking forward to celebrating that, and anyone is welcome to join us. And finally, excited that we will have the return of the Second Friday Art Walk in historic downtown Norman this Friday, February 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. So I hope you all can join us for an evening of art and fun.
Thank you. Councilmember Tortorello, Ward 5.
I have no announcements.
Thank you. Councilmember Foreman, Ward 6.
Well, hello. Today is Election Day, so those of you who voted, thank you for doing so. For citywide, mayor, and then for the respective wards, I would just like to take a moment to thank Ward 6 for allowing me to serve you for the last year and a half. If I get reelected, I'm excited to serve you again. If not, then I humbly accept the will of the people. I'd like to keep this positive. So my daughter is here today witnessing, she's waving hi. She's witnessing democracy in action. So I just wanted to tell her I love you so much. So thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman, Ward 7.
Yes, just want to also mention about voting today. You still got 3 more minutes if you haven't made it. In my opinion, local elections are the most important. Your local government is the closest to you and has the most direct impact on your daily lives. And so, and in many cases, local elections can be decided by just a few votes. Many of you know the first time I ran, I lost by 21 votes. And then I ran 2 years later and I won by 28 votes. So, and Norman's the 3rd largest city with 130,000 people. So it really matters in these local elections. So after today, make sure you find out when the next election will be and get prepared to vote in that one as well. So thank you to everybody that did vote today and everybody on the ballot for putting your name out there. Also want to mention the recent ribbon cutting for our new household hazardous waste facility. Our staff has done some amazing work to get that place open, but this is the place where all Norman residents will now be able to take your household hazardous waste materials. Normally we would have an event twice a year or once a year at Lloyd Noble Center where you could line up and drop it off. But one of the most frequent questions I get on council over the years is, where can I take this paint? Where can I take this oil or these tires or things like that? And Norman now has a facility where if you go online or if you call down there, you can set an appointment to come drop it off. But we can now, year-round, we'll be able to take a lot of that stuff off your hands so it's not just sitting around in your garage or in the shed out back. So that's one of the more exciting facilities, I think, that we've been able to open here in Norman in recent time. It's not as maybe fun as aquatic centers and libraries, but it serves a real purpose. And so that is just south of Highway 9 on Chautauqua, down by the water reclamation plant and the animal welfare center and the sanitation area. So be sure to check that out. And that's all I've got for this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Peacock, Ward 8.
No announcement.
Yeah, shockingly, neither do I. Let's continue on, shall we? Consent docket. This item is placed on the agenda so that the city council could designate those routine agenda items that they wish to acknowledge by one motion. I need a motion to place items 5 through 16 on the consent docket. Thank you. The motion on the floor is to place items 5 through 16 on the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
The consent docket was approved unanimously.
Thank you. Item 5, ordinance 2122-33 upon first reading, rezoning 115 South Peters Avenue from C3 Intensive Commercial District to SPUD Simple Plan Unit Development District. Item 6, mayor's appointments of December Ambos to the ADA Citizens Advisory Committee. Olga Canfield, Michael Dick, Nathan Barron, and Breanne Zimmerman to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Chris Moxley, Allison May, and Christy Isaacson to the Parks Board. Zach Dufran to the Greenbelt Commission. Andy Shearer to the Norman Forward Citizens Financial Oversight Board. Sean Axton to the Planning Commission. Mike Rayner to the Public Safety Oversight Committee. And Victoria Harrison, Kevin Woodfork, and Ann Way to the Social and Voluntary Services Commission. Item 7, acceptance of a donation in the amount of $500 from the J.M. Williams Revocable Trust to the Norman Fire Department and budget appropriation as outlined in the staff report. Item 8, declaration of surplus and/or obsolete equipment and materials and authorizing the disposal thereof. Item 9, Norman Rural Certificate of Survey for 4D acres with a variance in the minimum acreage requirement in easements 21, 22-28, and 29. Item 10, Norman Rural Certificate of Survey for Denver Estates with a variance in the private road width requirement from 20 feet to 12 and in the minimum acreage requirement for all 4 lots, and easement 21, 22-30. Item 11, Amendment Number 2 to Contract 1718-110 by and between the City of Norman and Signs LLC, increasing contract by $36,800 for a revised amount of $407,601 to provide additional consulting services to provide additional time for the implementation, testing, and software upgrades for the Planning and Community Development Department. Item 12, Amendment Number 2 to Contract 1920-33 by and between the Norman Utilities Authority and Clean Earth of Alabama Incorporated, increasing contract by $63,965 for a revised amount of $181,025.40 to add a paint collection event for the citizens of Norman. Item 13, change order number 1 to contract 2021-90 by and between the City of Norman and D. Owen Construction LLC, decreasing contract by $1,642.50 for a revised amount of $340,859.65 for the FYE 2021 Merkle Creek Drainage Improvement Project, final acceptance of the project and final payment in the amount of $17,042.98. Item 14, change order number 1 to contract 2122-24 by and between the Norman Utilities Authority and Southwest Waterworks LLC, increasing the contract by $470,794 for a revised contract amount of $3,325,518.50 and adding 75 calendar days to the contract of the Flood Avenue Water Line Replacement Project. Item 15, change order number 2 to contract 2122-33 by and between the City of Norman and GNS Sign Services, increasing the contract by $9,930 for a revised contract amount of $118,940 for the wayfinding Phase 1 upgrades to Lindsay Street and around the municipal complex. Item 16, Resolution 2122-89, a resolution of the Council of the City of Norman and the trustees of the Norman Utilities Authority appropriating $684,000 from the general fund balance and $576,000 from the capital fund balance and transferring $540,000 from the sanitation utility effluent truck wash facility project for the construction of the North Base Phase 2 vehicle wash facility project. I need a motion to approve or reject the consent docket. Thank you. Are there any comments from council regarding any item on the consent docket? Councilmember Schuler.
Just excited to welcome the several members from Ward 2 onto the various committees and commissions. That's all.
Thank you. Seeing no other comment, the motion on the floor is to approve the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
The consent docket was approved unanimously.
Thank you. We have one item off consent. It's Resolution 2122-88, approving an appeal of the temporary administrative delay to allow the submittal of a demolition application for the dwelling structure at 201 West Apache Street. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the resolution. Thank you. I'd like to see if Mr. Jones would like to come give a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilpersons. I'll be brief. After the moratorium or freeze or administrative delay, however you want to phrase, the resolution that was passed back in December, I'm the owner of a property and also the attorney for the entity that owns that property at 201 West Apache Street. We were under contract as of July of last year to buy that property and then develop it, and all we're asking for the council to approve is a demolition permit to go ahead and remove the structure because of safety issues, whether it's the actual structural integrity of that building or public safety issues with respect to the sort of activity that that building currently attracts, so that we can get it out of the way. And then once the council has determined the best way to amend the rules for that area, we'll move forward with a plan that would work for the city.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions from council regarding this item? Councilmember Holman.
So, as you mentioned, this is just for the demolition. This does not include what you might build in its place.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's strictly for demolition, and whenever the city is prepared to move forward with a clarified version of rules for that area, we'll be, of course, more than happy to find some use for that property that fits with the vision for that area.
And if approved tonight, how long until you would demolish it, do you think?
What do we think, 30 days? 30 days.
And this house is actually one of my favorites in the area. When I voted for the Center City policy, I knew what the future fate of it could be, but it is a pretty cool old American Foursquare there. The windows and other parts of the house, were those, you plan to salvage those or anything like that with, with our...
Of course.
Yes, Habitat for Humanity.
Sure.
I was trying to think.
Yes, certainly do that.
Because it looks like a lot of those types of things might still be in good shape, and they are, old, and somebody might want them and might be able to repurpose them. I just would like to see whatever's possible with that house be recycled.
Certainly, and that is definitely in keeping with sort of our philosophy as a redevelopment group, that we make sure that those sorts of things are salvaged. The inside is beyond repair. There are obvious structural issues to the building from the outside. It's been the source of numerous police issues, and so it's certainly something that, we'd like to get it out of the way for public welfare and safety and all those sorts of things, but would salvage anything we can.
It's multiple apartments, actually, isn't it?
It is. The previous owner
And
had,
probably non-conforming use.
yes, legal non-conforming, certainly. But
Okay.
the previous owner had tried to rent out the extra units. There's only one that's currently occupied, and we'll be helping him actually find a new place to live. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council regarding this item? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers registered for this item? Okay, and you've spoken. All right. Are there any final comments from council regarding this item? Councilmember Hall.
So I will be voting no on this administrative delay appeal tonight for the following reasons. This is the second Center City Form-Based Code administrative delay appeal that has come to council before the Center City Form-Based Code Ad Hoc Committee has even had its second meeting. The administrative delay also applies to demolition permits, as is being requested tonight, as well as construction. And while the administrative delay is temporary in nature and will expire in June 14th, 2022, demolishing a house is permanent and an irreversible action. This house has been on this corner lot for 100 years, providing a viable housing option, and according to the applicant, it is currently occupied, and it could remain that way during this short delay period. Because it sits on a residential corner lot in Center City, it's premature to demolish this house until the ad hoc committee considers the proposed changes to the form-based code. The residential corners like this one in Center City are going to be specifically addressed. The applicant himself states that he has no intention to move forward with construction plans while the form-based code is undergoing review, and that we're considering potential changes. So we've had 2 meetings in the past month concerning the concept of pattern zoning. It was recently discussed publicly at the City Council Business and Community Affairs meeting on January 6th and the February 1st City Council study session, with presentations by Matt Hoffman and Matthew Petty, the creators of pattern zoning. This zoning overlay is being specifically discussed as a potential solution to addressing the residential corner lots in Center City, as well as additional potential changes to the current regulating plan and the building form standards. So right now, it's unknown what the final recommendation for this residential corner and others will be. So the administrative delay is in place precisely to halt most activity in Center City, to allow a brief period of time for the committee to do its work. So demolishing the existing house and the resulting undeveloped empty corner lot this early in the delay will undermine the current character of Center City and directly impact issues that are set to be addressed during the temporary administrative delay. So maintaining the status quo and keeping the existing structure and continuing to keep it in the housing inventory, to me, is preferable to an empty lot while the future use of this corner is being considered.
Thank you. Seeing no other council comments, the motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution. Council members, you may cast your votes.
The motion it fails. Voting for this was Councilmember Tortorello, Councilmember Lynn, and Mayor Bria Clark.
Thank you. Now we have miscellaneous comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address City Council. Remarks should be directed to the council as a whole and limited to 3 minutes or less. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Mr. Dan Munson.
Dan Munson, Ward 6. Excuse me. So what I would like to talk about tonight is the budget process that's coming up. And so we've recently, the federal government has passed an infrastructure bill. It's like $1.4 trillion or something like that. It's a lot of money. And then they've also passed, or they're going to pass the Build Back Better Now bill, and that'll happen before November. Take that to the bank. And so we have an opportunity to capture a lot of federal dollars for infrastructure projects. And so in the private sector, what we would do in that scenario is we would send the people who are going to be working on proposals or grants or any kind of package to training to fine tune and polish the packages that we're putting together. And I think first of all, I would like to just say, I think our city does a really, really good job in winning grants. I think, I don't know the millions of dollars we get a year. I don't know if anyone's ever captured that. It's a lot. So we do a really nice job on that. So I think a little bit of training dollars could go a really long way for us in the budget process. Shipley is a company that provides that training. There's a number of others too. So like for that to be considered. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the homicide that happened at the worming shelter, outside the worming shelter. I feel terrible for all the families involved in that. And so when I was thinking about that homicide, and then recently we had 3 of our homeless coordinators tender resignations. And so what I wondered is, do our city employees that are working with the homeless, do they feel unsafe? Is that part, maybe a small part of the reason why they tendered their resignation? And when I think back to the passing of the warming shelter, and I believe it was October of 2020 is when the council passed that to be funded. One of the things that we talked about was putting a camera outside of the warming shelter. To the best of my knowledge, we haven't done that. And so I believe a camera could potentially make the city employees feel a little safer. And so I think that maybe could be considered. I don't know, maybe there is one out there, I just haven't seen it, but if there isn't one, I would like us to reconsider placing that camera out there. And that might make the city employees feel a little bit safer. And then if there's a legal activity going on out there, if there's another shooting, God forbid, I hope that's not the case, I would hope that that camera could help capture evidence. So thanks for your time tonight. And also, thanks to everyone for serving our city. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones, you signed up for miscellaneous.
Didn't anticipate, but I would like to make a comment with respect to the denial of our application. That property on the inside is beyond repair. The purchase price that we paid for it, the amount that it would cost to get that building to a habitable position is at least 100% of that cost. The individual who lives there now pulled a weapon on our surveyors who came out to look at it. At one point, when we were developing the property next door, an individual on the front porch who was passed out from, I would assume, drug use asked me what time it was. And it was in the morning, and I said 8. And she said, thank you. And then 20 seconds later said, wait, AM or PM? This is a safety issue. That house is a safety issue. It's a structural safety issue. It's a public safety issue. It's been the source of a number of police interventions. It's been likely the source of a lot of stolen packages from other people who live in the area. It's a safety issue. And so I want the city council to understand that this is not something we're doing here because we don't like the structure. I've been a fan of the structure myself, actually. I went to school here. I live here. It's a structure that I like, but it's just untenable to think that there's any amount of money that could be spent to make the inside of that habitable. The ceiling on one floor has collapsed onto the unit underneath. It is not a habitable structure. There's no amount of money that can save that. And there's nothing that can be done with the ad hoc committee or any changes to the rules later that would be affected by the demolition of the building today, because as it stands, it's a liability issue. If somebody decides to walk up the rickety ladder and falls off, we're liable for that. If a vagrant goes inside and starts a fire, as they did with the property next door that we owned while it sits vacant, that's a liability issue for us. It's a safety issue for the entire city of Norman. So that's what I leave the city council with.
Thank you. Seeing no other miscellaneous comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. All right, I'll sign those later. Those no?